day we sweated out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At night we ride through mansions of glory and suicide machines, sprung from cages on Highway 9, chrome wheel, fuel injected, stepping out over the line. Oh, baby, this town rips the bones from your back. It's a death trap, it's a suicide rap. We gotta get out while we're young, 'cause tramps like us, baby, we were born to run.
And that day that I got home and went out there and started working with this young male Mustang and saw him respond to my gestures, it was the most incredible thing and the most unbelievable feeling. But the strongest impulse within me was to say to myself, who the hell is going to apologize to this species for all these centuries of misunderstanding, of abuse, of neglect, of doing things the wrong way? It's terrible. Who would have thought this wrong? Because he was telling me, you know, you got it right.
California. Here he has trained thoroughbreds that have won prestigious races around the world. Monty is the 2-year-old blushing ET's last chance. If he can't help him, the horse will probably lose his life. Before serious work with blushing ET at the starting gate, Monty uses a specially constructed arena to bond with the horse. He does this by speaking the horse's language, a language that Monty has dubbed Equus. Monty has used Equus to start over 10,000 raw or green horses, horses that have never felt bridle, bit, saddle or rider. Monty calls the moment when the bond of trust is established join up. He can put a rider on a raw horse's back in less than 40 minutes. Conventional methods can take many weeks and sometimes involve punishment that can leave the horse scarred for life. Monty was the son of a horse trainer who broke horses in a violent way. Even as a young boy, Monty was looking to do it differently. Growing up in Salinas, California, he was constantly competing in rodeos. One of the events was a wild Mustang race. When Monty entered his teens, he persuaded the organizer of the rodeo to give him the contract to find wild horses for the race. At 13, Monty headed out to the high grassland of the Sierra Nevada, a place he would later call his outdoor university. Watching the herds helped him understand their silent language, Equus. Their signals and body language are the basis of Monty's technique of introducing horses gently to saddle and rider. He saw how the dominant mare would discipline younger horses by driving them away from the herd, and then gradually...
This horse obviously is not violent at the moment, but he's riding that edge of violence and could react for us at any moment with utter and complete violence.
Crawford Hall, paralyzed in a near-fatal horse accident, is Monty's longtime stable manager and helps him assess the problem.
What happened probably is that the first time he was frightened and went in. And he went in so violently, remembering the sting of the whip, and once he was in there, he got compressed in there because they don't leave the front gate open. And then as the walls give him pain, particularly with these ledges that are inside here, he'll kick out at them, just as he did with the whip. And the more you fight, the more he fights. And it just begins to build then into a totally unacceptable association with anybody around this contraption. I know what it is. It hurts, and I'm going to fight it. Ah, my mouth's watering now. He's already kind of captured me in that he's a beautiful young horse with probably all the ability in the world, and he's terribly misunderstood. And if I can intercede to set the record straight here and get him happy, God, it's gratifying.
Monty's farm is in Solvang, California. Here he has trained thoroughbreds that have won prestigious races around the world. Monty is the 2-year-old Blushing ET's last chance. If he can't help him, the horse will probably lose his life. Before serious work with Blushing ET at the starting gate, Monty uses a specially constructed arena to bond with the horse. He does this by speaking the horse's language, a language that Monty has dubbed Equus. Monty has used Equus to start over 10,000 raw or green horses, horses that have never felt bridle, bit, saddle or rider. Monty calls the moment when the bond of trust is established join up. He can put a rider on a raw horse's back in less than 40 minutes. Conventional methods can take many weeks and sometimes involve punishment that can leave the horse scarred for life. Monty was the son of a horse trainer who broke horses in a violent way. Even as a young boy, Monty was looking to do it differently. Growing up in Salinas, California, he was constantly competing in rodeos. One of the events was a wild Mustang race. When Monty entered his teens, he persuaded the organizer of the rodeo to give him the contract to find wild horses for the race. At 13, Monty headed out to the high grassland of the Sierra Nevada, a place he would later call his outdoor university. Watching the herds helped him understand their silent language, Equus. Their signals and body language are the basis of Monty's technique of introducing horses gently to saddle and rider. He saw how the dominant mare would discipline younger horses by driving them away from the herd and then gradually letting them come back in.
So I couldn't wait to get home with these Mustangs. And that day that I got home and went out there and started working with this young male Mustang and saw him respond to my gestures, it was the most incredible thing and the most unbelievable feeling. But the strongest impulse within me was to say to myself, who the hell is going to apologize to this species for all these centuries of misunderstanding, of abuse, of neglect, of doing things the wrong way? It's terrible. Tremendous barrier he has between man and horse. There is no empathy, no comfort.
Monty begins like the dominant mare by driving away the young, misbehaving horse. After a while, when the horse realizes that there's no escape and that the human in the middle is not going to relent, he begins to make signs of submission, first fixing his inside ear on Monty, then making licking and chewing motions with his mouth to show the beginnings of trust.
And you're going to see him drop his head right down near the soil, which means if we could have a meeting to renegotiate this, I'd let you be the chairman of the meeting. Okay. There's some pretty good mouth activity there. There's good licking and chewing, and there's the head coming down.
At this point, Monty is ready to make body gestures, inviting the horse to join up.
Now you'll see that as I move here, each time that he consciously decides to come closer, I'll go fetal. I'll go fetal in that you'll see me drop my chin, round my shoulders, and double myself up. And that's his invitation to come closer to me. Fingers have to be round.
Join up with Blushing ET reveals a great deal to Monty. Unlike a wild horse, which speaks a pure form of Equus and is like a blank slate, Blushing ET communicates with Monty, his wariness expressing the trauma that is built up inside him. The join-up is important for a horse, establishing his willingness to work with a human.
Now we have a totally different horse in this enclosure than we had when we came in here. The horse that you saw who would walk over the top of me and who would walk away from me and not pay attention is now respectful, congenial. We have a relationship. He's aware of where I am, what I'm doing, and is believing in me.
Many horses have starting gait problems. The steel railings that run along the inside of the gate rub right up against the horse's flanks. It's a highly sensitive part of the horse that's most vulnerable to attack by predators. Monty developed the starting gait blanket to protect the flanks, but Blushing E.T. immediately perceived the blanket as a threat.
My word! What was that then? My goodness! Such a frightening thing. Whoa! 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 Watch! Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Monty is always refining his techniques. While working with horses with starting gait problems, he came up with the idea of building an hourglass-shaped corral around the stall, creating a zone where the horse could calm down. Like the blanket, it lessens the trauma for the horse. He can begin the process of recreating the starting gait experience in a positive way.
Maybe it's okay.
Blushing E.T.'s first full training session at the gate is very telling. He's clearly terrified of what might be behind him.
Yeah, that's the whip. When he jumps and kicks like that, he's feeling that the whip is coming.
Monty puts himself at great risk when working in such a confined space. At one point, it looks like Blushing E.T. finds some peace in the starting gate, but he only manages to stand still for a moment before exploding out. Next, Monty tries backing him into the gate and then urging him forward. If Blushing E.T. can't do this, he'll never be able to load peacefully into a gate. It also tells the horse that he doesn't need to panic about what's behind him. But the strain of the session is beginning to show.
If you can back him through a few times, and then stop the backing up while he's in there, then you can move him forward and begin to teach him the value of not running forward at high rate of speed. If I hadn't done the join up, you see, there'd be no way I could go in here with him and work with him like this, because he would kill me. But he still has a little bit of the value of that round pin in his mind. Oh, good boy.
The next day, in his second starting gait session, Blushing E.T. seems to make some progress. Before starting, Monty has him taken round the track to loosen up. The goal today is the same, to back him into the gate, only this time with a rider on his back. Blushing E.T. is trying his heart out, but much to everyone's frustration, he seems to take one step forward and 2 steps back. The saddest moment comes when Blushing E.T., shaking with fear, actually sits down in the gate.
Stay up on top.
All this allows Monty to understand the severity of the horse's problem. He will continue to watch his behavior and look for new solutions. But it's now clear to Monty that Blushing E.T. is an extraordinary challenge. In search of clues, Monty decides to drive to Santa Anita Racecourse. It was a trainer here that sent Blushing E.T. to him, and it's here that the horse will return if he can be cured. Monty visits the starting gate crew.
So then I was going to blindfold him, and that's the first thing I thought of too. This sumbitch has never been closed up, and if he ever went to thrash and got loose with that blindfold, it'd be all over with.
Well, particularly
He sat down in there, huh?
He went, well, he sat down first and then just threw himself on the ground and then just went to looking for anybody to bite, you know. Yeah.
No, I look forward
Jay
to
Slender
seeing
is
him
head
out
starter
here.
at Santa Anita. He knew Blushing E.T. hated the gates. At one point, track officials were even threatening to ban the horse for life after he broke the hand of one of the crew.
We pushed him through a couple times, and once, like you say, we got him halfway in that gate, he just wanted out.
Yeah.
He blew right through those front doors with me. He will paw at you, though.
Yeah.
He will strike at you and want to bite you and kick you.
Blushing E.T. heads out into the early morning mist. As Monty watches, he reflects on how attached he becomes to the horses he works with.
I've dealt with over 100 that I got from 0 to perfect at the starting gate, and then wait and wait and wait for word of how they're doing, call the trainer, and ultimately, that horse bowed, we send him off to Argentina or Puerto Rico or something. And it's a knife through you, you know, when those things happen.
Once at the gate, it's clear that Blushing E.T.'s adrenaline is way down. There seems to be a new calm about him as he's backed into the gate. Monty, meanwhile, positions himself above the horse to get him used to having people around him. This makes Blushing E.T. very nervous.
I thought I could go in there and stand up in the next stall and not be very prominent, and he'd be fine. But they've been meaner to him than I thought. If I can just begin to desensitize these ears now. This is what he's frightened of, that I'm going to take hold of this ear. And Janine said that they did bite his ears. It happens. It happens.
It's like an artist working on a painting. He knows what the picture wants to look like when it's all done. When we look at it, we see the artist put all that stuff on the canvas and we're going, that's going to be a boat? That's going to be a boat? And pretty soon, the boat takes place. And I think that he just has an inner confidence of knowing where all this is going.
You're going to have to go to work now and learn a lot in the next few days.
After 4 days of work, Monty has to go back on the road. Crawford will continue to work with the horse.
I'll see you in a few days. I'll be on the phone to you and do your best to understand.
Fame and success have allowed Monty to spread his ideas about how humans should communicate with horses. The Queen brought him from obscurity to become a household name when she recognized his talents. His big break came with the publication of his best-selling book, The Man Who Listens to Horses.
There you go.
When Monty returns a week later, Crawford has made significant progress, but Blushing E.T. continues to struggle. The starting gate blanket is helping, but he still bolts out of the gate. A simple job is turning into a major project for Monty. He documents his progress with a camcorder.
And what our goal is today is to cause him to comfortably back through the starting gate, with eventually myself up on the side of it.
Monty continues to scrutinize the horse's behavior. He makes a minor change that has an enormous impact. He removes the hourglass pen, replacing it with a circular path. Before, the horse would burst out of the gate straight into a fence, where he'd be forced to a dead halt. Now, Blushing E.T. can keep going and his own momentum brings him back to the gate. Blushing E.T. is therefore allowed to deal with the gate on his own terms. He can learn the lesson at his own pace. After 2 months, Monty feels that Blushing E.T. is ready to return to Santa Anita. If all goes well today, he might be able to restart his career as a racehorse. But Blushing E.T. is nervous in his old environment, and it doesn't take long before he bolts out of the starting gate, almost injuring Monty. But that day at Santa Anita would prove to be critical for Monty. He saw something at the track that he hadn't registered before. Blushing E.T. wasn't only afraid of the starting gate, he was also terrified of being whipped on the hind legs by the gate crew. To confront this new demon, Monty decides to test the horse's sensitivity using long lines in the round arena. Blushing E.T. kicks for all his might. Monty's suspicions are confirmed. The big breakthrough comes when Monty puts a stable blanket on Blushing E.T. It gives him a warm, cozy feeling he recognizes. Monty then continues using the long lines with the blanket on. This way, Blushing E.T. comes to accept the rubbing sensation of the lines. A few more sessions and Blushing E.T. returns to Santa Anita for his big test. One sunny Saturday morning in mid-February at Santa Anita Racecourse, Blushing E.T. approaches the gate, wearing Monty's starting gate blanket. Under the watchful eye of Jay Slender, he loads calmly and stands quietly as 2 horses are loaded either side of him in the gate. His blanket is removed, the gates spring open, and Blushing E.T. runs out, just like a racehorse. It's only 3/8 of a mile, but for Monty, the man who never lost hope, this is the culmination of a long and difficult journey. A 2-week job became 4 months. Now it's up to the horse to carve his own path to glory.
Yeah. You be a good boy till I see you. Next time I see you, you'll be winning a race, huh? You'll be winning a race? See you later. See you in the winner's circle. I started
In the day we sweated out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At night we ride through mansions of glory and suicide machines. Sprung from cages on Highway 9, chrome wheel, fuel injected, stepping out over the line. Oh, baby, this town rips the bones from your back. It's a death trap, it's a suicide rap. We gotta get out while we're